Welcome, everyone, to Winning in the Shadows NFL Week 2. Andy, Jim, and Corbin here to break down all your NFL Week 2 props and parlays. There is no time to waste. It's game day. We always like to check the weather. Not nothing too crazy. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more important as the season gets started, but with a slight chance of thunderstorms in the Jets Titans, chance of rain for Browns and Jaguars. I kind of feel like the Browns, it's just very Brownsy that it's just always potentially rain. That's just a very, very Browns thing. No matter where they're at, just rain. Slight chance of rain for the Rams and Cardinals and for Steelers Broncos. Thunderstorms possibly for Bears and Texans, but they're in a dome.
Do you want to do your dome rant that you do
I
every
love
week?
that weather report. That's great.
Listen, I think the Rams and Cardinals are in a dome too. So listen, we're just here to give you the facts. The facts are there is a chance of rain in the dome game, and then a chance of rain showers for Falcons and Eagles. So nothing nothing weather-wise. That's great. All right, let's go over some injury report here. Cardinals, Ravens, other Bills, Panthers. Adam Thielen popped up on the report, full practice. Keenan Allen, it's week 2. He's already dealing with a heel injury. That's not good for the Chicago Bears. Although I'm not sure. I don't know, man. Keenan Allen might be getting to that point for Mr. Allen there. T. Higgins didn't practice this week, doubtful again. Joe Burrow's got the wrist. Zach Moss looks like he's ready to go. Myles Garrett, that's a big problem with the Browns defense. They've got some big time injuries on that Browns defensive line. Ferguson probably not going to play. Jameson Williams, listen, if he's going to play in fantasy, you're going to start him, but probably not making any bets. Jordan Love not playing. Corbin, what's going on with Jaden Reed?
It only just popped up the last day or so. I still expect him to play, but
okay.
I wasn't going to have any plays on that kind of on the Packers really at all anyway, for reasons that are pretty obvious that I'm sure we'll get to. So
yeah. Let's see. Nico Collins is fine. Josh Downs. They said he made a full practice session on Friday, so I guess you got to count on him being able to make it. I'm actually kind of surprised that he was able to do that. Brock Bowers, Josh Palmer. This is kind of a little bit of a problem for the Chargers. I mean, they're already thin in that passing game. To me, this is just a big time signal on J.K. Dobbins and possibly Gus Edwards that those guys are just going to get absolutely ton of work. Puka's now in the IR. He and Christian McCaffrey can hang out. Hawkinson, Kendrick Bourne. Neighbors. This was a weird one. Malik Neighbors randomly pops up in the middle of the week. I guess he did something to his knee in practice. It looks like he's good to go. I'm on the fence because I really, really liked his receiving number against this Washington, this Washington defense. He's probably okay. AJ Brown hamstring all of a sudden kind of popped up. That's so we'll that's Monday night. So that's terrifying. That's a terrifying thing in fantasy leagues and such. So, Elijah Mitchell will spend the season on IR. That sucks. So that running back crew is pretty rough. And then Kenneth Walker is probably not going to play. I saw they brought up a guy off of the practice squad. So, all right, let's get into the props. If you guys could, while you're watching, hit the like button around the Winning in the Shadows channel here. Let's just jump right into it, and we will start with the passing props. Corbin, you said you and I were talking. This is a tough week for props, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those weeks. So obviously you had your first reads for week 1, and it's like, how many of those do you suddenly alter or change completely? The biggest thing is I don't want to overreact. What I like is something that I liked coming into week 1 that I then saw in week 1. It's a continuation of the theme. So yeah, anything kind of different, it's kind of like, is that a permanent change or just like a week 1 change? So just going with it. I'll quickly go on the first play that you're on, actually, if you want. Richardson, I like him to go under his passing yards here. I think I say it every single week. We cannot stop the run at all. So if you're the Colts, what, you're just going to run the ball constantly against us? Like, Willis is going to do nothing. Quite honestly, I can't see us having any success unless Josh Jacobs suddenly gets going. So yeah, I think they're going to run the ball more. That I think they're going to be ahead. I don't think there's going to be any particular need for him to throw it like to this kind of number. And we're actually not that bad against the pass if you look over it. He only got 212 last week versus the Texans, but that was a shootout, high-scoring game. So I don't see the need for him to get anywhere near this total, quite honestly.
164.5 is such a laughable, crazy number.
I still don't think he gets over.
I'm wondering about under the pass attempts. Boy, getting 16 completions, that's asking a lot. So I will not be betting on any Malik Willis props, but I mean, I don't know. 164, you would just think, is this an NFL quarterback? Surely you go over. But this is the Malik Willis that we watched get benched in a preseason game. He was so bad that the Vrabel like benched him because he was like, the rest of our team isn't getting enough work on offense because you're throwing the ball into the ground. So
what's him to throw an interception just out of pure curiosity? Because if we think he's going to be passing, I can't imagine it's going to be particularly accurate.
I almost wonder. I almost wonder if. I mean, if they're not throwing, I wonder if there's value on the under. if he doesn't throw, but that you're not.
He's going to have to throw. We're going to be behind.
Yeah, so. I've had a long enough week as is. I don't think taking an under interception on Malik Willis is how I want to go. Jim, any of these quarterback props jump off the page here?
No, like you said, it's just one of those. It's week 2, so week 1 I think is almost easier to handicap than week 2. Week 2, there's a lot of false narratives out there, so really nothing has been jumping on. I haven't really looked, to be honest with you, in yardage passing at all. If anything, I'd be interested in some of the 1.5 touchdowns.
Will Levis, that number's already gone down. We talked about it on Thursday. It was 200. Now it's already down to 195. There was, what was the one? Oh, I was looking at the Bears and Caleb Williams under 213. This is a guy that threw for 93 yards. No Keenan Allen, which means another weapon off the field. I don't know. Is there value? This thing's moved. So here's the thing. We missed the line movement. Mm-hmm. So you got to be willing to say, well, I missed the 220.5, but it's down to 213. I thought he looked terrible. He's now at 49% pass completion for preseason and regular season. So I'm wondering, I think this game could be really rough for Chicago. So you wonder if Houston kind of runs out the clock. I don't know, Corbin, what do you think? Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I actually have the passing props are actually the ones I had the most joy with whilst looking up. I already took Caleb Williams earlier in the week at a slightly high number, but even at this number, like as you mentioned, that he played the Titans last week, who are not a good pass defense. He went 14 for 29 for only 93 yards. Like that's a huge step up to suddenly jump from 93 to even anything north of 200. Texans obviously gave up 199 last week in what was a shootout to Richardson. I don't suddenly see the jump there. The other plays that I quickly had so you already mentioned Levis, we did Richardson, Caleb, Deshaun Watson under 213 again. He's just a shell of the person he is. Got 169 last week versus the Cowboys. He threw 45 times and only got 169 yards. Like, I know the Jags aren't great. I would say that's pretty damn bad. I know the Jags don't have a great passing defense, but I'm expecting the Browns just to run a bit more. No Njoku as well. Like, that's a huge. I would say that's a huge miss. Quite honestly, he was a pretty reliable target for Watson. Also, looking at Watson interception, I mean, it's one of those. I said in the Discord earlier in the week, it's kind of one of those. I want to play it every week, but I don't know if I trust the Jags pass defense to do anything. But again, passes have been so wayward. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to catch one of those wayward balls.
Yeah, I mean, with Deshaun, you've got. Deshaun's got the daily double. He's got off-field issues and on-field issues. It's
He's
a
just got
night.
issues everywhere.
It's
He's a
just
triple threat.
Yeah, it's really really rough. So, we did great on the passing touchdowns last week, and I do not feel confident this week in any of those. The Brock Purdy over 1.5 could be a good one. Just not a lot going on here. There was the only one that I was even the Daniel Jones and Jaden Daniels. I don't know. Is there value at plus 155 on Daniel Jones
No.
over? No.
No.
I think his odds to run one in take away from that.
Okay.
We've seen them so willing in that first game to tuck and run him because I don't know if Brian Daboll's actually trying to get Daniel Jones killed so he can get a new quarterback, but it's a lot of rushes
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah. We hit CJ Stroud last week. That was against the Colts, but I got to tell you, it was late in the game. It was kind of a shootout, and that running game looked great. So I'm not really sure if I'm willing to do that. I know it's juicy, but Kirk Cousins under 1.5 would be a good one. I'm just fading these guys, man. Fading these guys, these older quarterbacks off the Achilles injuries, which we'll get to in some of these rushing props. Let's talk about rushing. Corbin, Colts and Packers. Jonathan Taylor's big 80.5. I don't know. Are we looking at rush attempts maybe?
I don't know. It's one of those that personally I will throw in an alt line because I think he's going to run all over us, as I've said many times before. But I think Richardson, I mentioned going against his passing, but I think his rushing, I think it's at 39.5. I think that's an easier play than go with Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Richardson rushed 6 times for 56 yards last week. I think they're going to have way more success on the ground, as I said. We just can't defend the run. And the longer, if they just keep running it throughout the whole thing, we're going to be exhausted by the end. And then the holes are going to get bigger, and then he could easily break a couple of huge ones against us, quite honestly.
Yeah.
We gave up 144 rushing last week, and we were 28th versus the rush last year. Again, when I look for continuations, that's a huge one that I see no improvement still. So,
Raiders and the Ravens, man. Derrick Henry 73.5. I don't know, Jim. I don't believe.
No.
What's that?
I'd rather play the anytime touchdown with Derrick Henry.
That's where I'm going. Henry, we've said it from the very beginning. Play his touchdowns, not necessarily his yard. He looked pretty slow, and that was week 1, where he should be at his best and healthy. Man, he looked. I don't know.
He looks very dependent on straight line running. Like he was never the most nimble, but it was really evident that whatever direction he starts in, he's not deviating from that plan. He's going straight ahead.
Andy, I have a question for you on the.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the unders on the Raiders side. So I was looking at Madison under 21.5. I think he's just awful, quite honestly. He had 19 yards on 5 carries last week. So that does slightly bother me because it was only 5 runs. And then Zamir White under, what number is it at now?
43.5.
So yeah, he had 44 last week. Ravens were pretty all right against the run, quite honestly. I think the Ravens are going to be ahead and bleeding the clock and controlling time of possession. But equally, I mentioned it last week, but the rushing total for Raiders as a team is 85.5. You just do the math. You add Mattison, White, and Minshew together, and it's less than 85.5. So
that's interesting.
If I don't think any of them are going to go over, instead of trying to pick which one or playing all 3, surely I should just take the 85.5 as a team and just not expect them to run at all, quite honestly.
It's a great look. Yeah, I could see the Raiders kind of being behind the 8 ball here on this one and not really wanting to run the ball. I would love to fade Alexander Madison. Like you said, 5 carries, 21 yards, though, is just such a low number.
I don't know if they're doing it this year, Andy. I haven't actually looked at it, but have they got the an alt under total? Like,
you have to do it with the same game parlay.
Because I could like I always talk about, I like the alts to give you breathing space, basically. So if you could get Madison anything over 30 suddenly under an alt line, that suddenly sounds.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it would be slightly down where your mouse is. If up a few, up 2 more. No, you've gone
There it
past
is.
them.
All
There it
rushing
is.
yards. Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah, look at
okay.
that.
There you go. 30
Yeah,
and
I
a
could.
half.
I
There
love
you
that.
go.
30.5 minus, what is it, 250? I could
Yeah.
quite
You do
easily see
minus
that as a piece
250 with like a team prop on the,
on the team total,
yeah, do
probably.
like the Ravens over 16 and a half, or, even I actually just do 20 and a half, minus 125. There you go.
Love it. There we go.
Madison under 30 and a half and Ravens over 20 and a half. Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. Great way. Let's see. Let's go back to rushing props here. I think we're on the 49ers and the Vikings. Aaron Jones under 50 and a half definitely had my attention. He had a great matchup last week, had a really good game. Don't see that happening again. And then Jordan Mason, 74 and a half. I don't know. Aaron Jones under would be the only one. Jim, you like anything in this game?
I wonder what this workload, what you're going to get out of Madison, Jordan Mason this week. He did seem to kind of slow down in the second half. You could say that was the scheme from the Jets, tightening up. Just, coming off it, I don't know. I actually wouldn't be shocked to see Sam Darnold have to run for his life a little bit against this. I expect the 49ers to win this game. I expect them to be up. I think you plug any running back into this system and they're going to have success. So it wouldn't shock me with that pass rush to see Sam kind of tuck it and run to try to get it at Dodge. The Debo would be interesting for me, actually. The 23 and a half, I think.
Yeah, this line's moved a ton. Wow. It was 15 and a half when it opened.
Yeah. So it's moved a lot. Maybe word out of the 49ers is they're going to up his carries. I think that's a recipe for disaster. We've seen him get banged up every season.
Yeah.
Let him be a wide receiver. So the Aaron Jones under is probably something I would look at more. And if you got to think if Minnesota's going to be down, they're going to be using Jones in the passing game. They're not going to run him into that line over and over again.
Let's move to Chargers and Panthers. This is the under of the week for me. Chuba Hubbard, under 50 and a half. We had 6 carries last week. He had 6 carries. And I know that the game script got completely out of hand, but it can't happen again this week. And this is a Chargers team that, man, if they get the lead, it's going to be the Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins show. Panthers had 23 minutes of possession last week, like in a real game, like a game that they were trying in. It was just awful. Miles Sanders got 5 carries. Like the Panthers ran the ball 20 times total, and he got 6 of them.
But this is where do you almost worry that they're going to overcorrect, and go more rushing and like try and make that adjustment?
They trying and succeeding are 2 different things. I'm just not. I'm stunned at that 50 and a half. To me, that feels like you need to bust a 30, 35 yarder to even get in the neighborhood on that one. And then J.K. Dobbins over 57 and a half would be the one. What rush attempt? I saw the rush attempts for Dobbins and Edwards were 11 and a half and 13 and a half. Dobbins didn't get over that one, but I didn't think Gus Edwards looked very good last week. So I got to believe Dobbins probably gets more carries than Edwards. That being said, if they're up in the 4th, it could just be the Gus Edwards 3 yards in a cloud of dust show. But
I think they're both going to run, quite honestly. I mean, I always talk about path to victories. If you look, the Panthers gave up 180 rushing yards last week. You're going to make a game plan. You're going to go against that? Like, no. Like, it just seems the most obvious path, especially when like the receivers for the Chargers are all banged up. It's like it kind of just seems to all make so much sense. So
yeah,
I really like the J.K. Dobbins over
that
57
and a half.
Yeah,
that seems really low. All right, Saints and the Cowboys. Zeke, I just keep talking unders. Zeke under 42 and a half. Did that look like a really explosive, awesome, game-changing running back last week? It didn't to me.
Nope.
So That being said, I just don't think Rico Dowdle's that good. I like when I watch him, it's not that impressive. This Cowboys rush game is just I don't know. It's not very good. Alvin Kamara, you never want to get involved with an Alvin Kamara rushing
No.
prop. So rushing yards, I don't see anything in this game. Do you guys see anything, Jim?
No.
Nope.
No. Okay.
What's
Buccaneers and the Lions. I thought Bucky Irving looked pretty good. That being said, this is a really, really tough run defense for Detroit. Corbin, you like any rushing props in this?
No, I'll get to it later. I like Rashad White over his receiving, but no, I don't like any rushing props. I thought Montgomery looked really good last week. I thought Gibbs might kind of push himself into like the main running back slot, but it still feels like it's Montgomery. So
When he's healthy, he's really, really good. I
Mhm.
I still can't believe that the Lions were able to pick him up. It's just kind of it's one of those guys like, really? How did the Lions get it? Nobody else wanted him as a feature. So, Jim, what do you think? Aaron Rodgers under 2.5?
I think that's going to be a play.
I
I I expect the Jets to absolutely beat the snot out of Will Levis.
okay.
I have no faith in this Tennessee team. My suspicions were proven right last week. I just don't think they're a good team. And if there ever was a get right spot after having to play the 49ers on opening night, going and having to play Tennessee is the bright spot. I expect them to be up, and they are not going to be running Rodgers. And if they are going to be up, we're going to get the kneel downs at the end of the game.
True.
So, yeah, the under 2.5 yards rushing, he's not going anywhere. So
We said it.
love
We said it last week. Are we going to feel stupid that we didn't take the Kirk Cousins under rushing and didn't even have a line out for that one? And then the Aaron Rodgers under, yes. And did any of those guys run? No. The older quarterbacks coming off of the Achilles injuries are an absolute stay away. So, Browns and Jaguars. Listen, I don't think every running back in the league sucks, but I'm going with another under here, and that's Jerome Ford. He's so much better as a pass catcher. Corbin, you talked about Rashad White. I have Jerome Ford kind of in that exact same category. He's when they got him, he was here to be kind of the third down back and spell Nick Chubb. He's just not a rushing guy. Jags, listen, they were good against the run last week against Miami. They did pretty good job. They gave up 338 yards passing. Those were a couple big plays, but the Jags, and we've talked about this, a lot, but listen, Travis Etienne doesn't fumble that ball. They're up 24-7 on the Dolphins, and I think this Browns team could be really, really in trouble this week. I don't want to trust Trevor Lawrence to pull out a big game, but I don't know, Jim. Jerome Ford, 52.5. What do you think?
I think the Browns are in disarray. I can't have any faith in this. I expect them to be down. I think that we'll get to it later on, but they have injuries up front. Myles Garrett's already banged up. Deshaun Watson looks like a shell of himself. So if I would look anywhere, it would be Jerome Ford under. Jacksonville's been good against the run.
Yeah.
Historically, they've always been vulnerable through the pass. Ever since they got rid of Jalen Ramsey, that's when their pass defense started to go. The Trevor Lawrence 14.5. If we are going to get Myles Garrett in there trying to wreak havoc, I could see him taking off and running for a couple, maybe 3 rushes. I don't know if that gets us over the 14. Other than that, nothing for me in this game.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you could hit the like button. Let's do the word of the day, tape. If you don't have a hot take, leave in the comments section. Just type the word tape, T-A-P-E. I appreciate you guys. As always, if you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that now. We have our week 2 NFL prop pack that is up at wagertalk.com. We are up 154.7 units for 2024. Corbin, you and I said we think we can get to 150. Now we're like, I think we can get to 200. This would be amazing if we could get to 200.
I think we can. We can.
Yeah, we hit the 4% best bet on NFL on Thursday Night Football. We had our college football bet last night. So I got to stop taking those college bets at the games that start at 10:30 my time.
Yeah.
Like you're just up at 1 a.m. You're like, oh my God, why do I have to keep watching this game? So football has been a bright spot for us this week. Looking to continue that. So you can grab that at wagertalk.com. Already got a few plays loaded in there. Seahawks and Patriots. I was the guy that was smart enough to draft Zach Charbonnet in my fantasy leagues.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have any good takes this rushing. Corbin.
no, pass.
Moving on. Giants and Commanders. Jane Daniels is already at 51.5, and Jim, I ain't taking the under on Jane
No.
Daniels. They don't want him to run that much. They even just came out and said we do not want him running that much. But it's just in the heat of the moment, man. If his first read wasn't there last week, he just tucked it and ran.
It was a very quick decision for him. You could see the thought process. First read, not there, I'm gone.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah.
That was
I
it.
think
When
he-
he decides to go, he goes. I think he could run all over the Giants, to be honest with you.
I was going to say, I think he sails over this
Yeah.
total. He ran 16 times last week for 88 yards.
Even if
Like,
he runs 10 times.
I was going to say,
away.
exactly.
It's all
I mean, the Commanders really just don't have that many options in the passing game that I feel like he's going to have to run.
Mhm.
And then the Giants defense, we don't need to talk about it. It's obvious.
Pretty bad. Rams and the Cardinals. We'll actually say we'll save this one. Corbin's going to do a same game parlay in this game. Alt line or same game parlay. Corbin's going to talk about this game.
I can. I will just say it's not in my same game parlay, but I really like Kyler Murray over 32.5. He went 5 for 57 last week. He's just so mobile that he could just slide out of the way of a tackle and just run for like 20 yards. Anyway, it's like I think this game's going to be competitive. I think he's going to have to run. I think he's going to have to make stuff happen. Maybe the total's just a tad higher. Would have liked it in the late 20s, but I'm still considering it at that. So.
Bengals and Chiefs. I don't have anything in this one, Jim. You like any rushing props?
No.
I like Pacheco. I'm surprised neither of you are on board with this. So he went 15 for 45 last week against the Ravens, whose rush defense I said I liked. The Bengals' rush defense is almost non-existent. They gave up 170 yards to the Patriots, ranked 26th last year, and he rushed 18 times for 130 yards versus the Bengals at the end of the year. This is one of those continuing themes. The Bengals had an awful rush defense last year. They still have one this year. I think Pacheco could easily go over this number.
You know what? You're right. The numbers on the Bengals rush defense when they don't have Reader in there, and Reader's not even with the team. But like the numbers on the Bengals rush defense when he did play was just night and day different. So Corbin, you're probably 100% right about that. That we need to look at Pacheco and over on his rushing because it is a good enough matchup. So you're right. Steelers and Broncos. Under on Jalen Warden, over on Najee. I mean, if we're just looking at last week, you don't want to take too much away. But my God, this is Najee Harris's backfield, right, Jim?
Yeah, this number is crazy low on Warren. I expected Warren to. I thought he was getting in the good graces of everybody last year. It just doesn't seem that way. So
Apparently
this is
not.
a misread for me as far as what we were going to see out of the Steelers this year. I expected Warren to be much more involved. Najee, I mean, maybe it's when Najee starts to slow down, which is just inevitable every season. That halfway through, Najee starts to slow down, and we see more Warren. But I mean, that number is criminally low for Warren. You got to think that if he gets 7 carries, he could get this against the Broncos.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, Najee had 20 carries last week. Jalen
That
Warden
can't
had
continue.
two carries.
It can't. That's one of those. I said at the start. I wonder if that's one of those week one kind of reads. Is it going to stay that way? It's kind of in that stay away. I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that, but I can talk Justin Fields because he rushed 14 times for 57 yards, which firstly I love that he's rushing that much. We know how mobile, how good he is, and that was against the Falcons, who obviously have a pretty decent rush defense. The Broncos gave up 146 last week on the ground and were the third worst last year. Again, I keep talking about it, but it's a continuing theme. I think their rush defense still stinks, and I think obviously Fields wasn't preparing for weeks for that game. Like, it was relatively short notice. You think another week behind him, they might have schemed some more runs for him, got him more comfortable. I think he could easily get over this total. I think he could go way over this total, quite honestly. So
I like it. And just to let everyone know, Jim is not only really sick this morning, he's on baby duty. So if he dips out, he's on cold medicine, and he's trying to take care of his baby son. So
we'll
we're
allow
gonna
him. We'll let him
we'll
off. We'll give him. That's a fair enough excuse.
He logged on this morning. He was just covered in sweat. I was like, "Did you just work out?" He's like, "No, I'm that sick." so poor Jim. Bears and the Texans. I got to tell you, I thought Joe Mixon looked great last week. The offensive line did a great job against the Colts, and the Colts have a pretty good defensive front. I was really surprised about how they really manhandled that Colts defensive line. Now is Mixon going to get 30 carries every week? Of course not. But I don't know. The books got pretty aggressive with it, bumped it all the way up to 71.5. I think this is Corbin. I just think this is a Bears team. This could be an ugly game for the Bears. I'm looking at DeAndre Swift under. I didn't think he looked that good.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of offense from the Bears.
No.
Like, they're going to get some yards, but man, I don't know. 45.5. I would be looking under again.
Probably.
Yeah.
I could get there with you. I think Mixon's just a tad high. It's 71. It's like
Pretty high. It's a pretty high number.
it's one of those huge overreactions from week one that, quite honestly, I'm going to avoid. So
Okay. Yeah, I mean, DeAndre Swift, 10 carries for only 30 yards. Yuck.
crazy.
Yeah. So, and we're pretty open that we're not big fans of the Titans team. Titans fans, I've seen your comments in the comment section. I get it that you disagree with us. I'm totally out on this Titans team. And even they held DeAndre Swift to 30 yards.
Yeah.
Falcons and the Eagles, your boy Saquon, you called it last week.
I did.
Was that like more matchup?
Oh yeah, Packers. Just take the
Okay.
running back against the Packers, quite honestly. New
All
team,
right.
first game. I thought, yeah, quite a few factors in that one. I like him less in this spot. I wouldn't play it this week. So
Okay. All right. Let's take a look at receiving props. We got some best bets. Jim's going to go over sack props and talk about some offense and defensive lines that we need to be focused on. Corbin's going to have a alt universe play, as well as nice little same game parlay. Colts and Packers. I don't know what Packers receiver I want to take the under on, but I don't know. There's you just kind of pass, right?
Some of these totals, you look at them, like Watson 23.5, Wicks 12.5. Like, I guess Reed maybe, but like these totals are already so low that they're already expecting it to be a mess, quite honestly. So
yeah. All right, not much we can do with reception props in that one. Raiders and Ravens. I just keep saying Jacoby Myers continues to be criminally underrated. He had over 60 yards. I know it's the Ravens. Jacoby Myers is the king of 3 catches for 60 yards. That's like his stat every week. We didn't play last week.
Did you realize he went 3 for 61 last week, or you just
was that?
Yeah. Okay, I was like, if you just pulled that like stat out of your head.
I pulled that out because I was like, that is the Jacoby Myers stat line every week. It's just 3 catches, 60 yards. There's going to be a 30-yard catch or something in there when Devontae Adams is quadruple teamed, and we've just watched him do it. Brock Bowers, I have a little interest just because of how many targets he got. Good Lord, they were looking at Bowers quite a bit. I guess the polarizing thing in this one is, what do you do with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews? Do you think last week
You stay away.
Awesome, stay away. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's one of those week one overreactions. Suddenly everyone's all off Mark Andrews and they're all on Isaiah Likely. It's like
Likely goes out 2 catches, 11 yards, and murders everyone's fantasy team.
Everyone will be like, "Oh, we should have played Mark Andrews," and then it might flip again. And it's like, it's just one of those. For the minute, you just sit and wait.
All right, 49ers and Vikings again. I'll let Jim's best bet is in this game, a receiving one. The George Kittle one is interesting. It's something like 59% of his games with Brock Purdy, he goes under 40 yards. Like he either has like 40 yards or 80 yards. But it's just kind of with Kittle, you almost just have to commit to playing it
You
every single
you could
week.
probably play the under most weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know what we might get to it. I'm not sure what him not to get a touchdown again is, because
Oh, we're gonna do the.
I'm quite interested to potentially ride that for the rest of the year. I don't think he's the same threat that he was a few years ago. You look at
Yeah. You're muted there, Corbin. Justin Jefferson. The game got out of the game got out of control there last week. Justin Jefferson was certainly on his way to having a really big game, and then he comes up a little bit short. He had like 56 yards. I almost wonder if these are the kind of games that Justin Jefferson ends up going over if the Vikings got to throw quite a bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I was going to say that Justin Jefferson one was very frustrating. It was my best bet last week, and it was so comfortable, but it was almost too comfortable. They got ahead easily that they didn't need him. So I do wonder if he's going to get double or triple covered against the 49ers. It's one of those I'm just going to stay away for the minute, but I wouldn't be surprised if he went 100 plus yards and made me annoyed.
Chargers and the Panthers. If there's anybody that I'm going to trust to try and catch passes, it's actually Ladd McConkey. I thought he looked pretty good last week. Deontay Johnson under. If you don't think Bryce Young's going to get it done, I would look there.
Does anyone ever think Bryce Young's going to get it done?
No.
Does anyone go into a week and go, you know what? I say that I made that mistake once last week. I went into 1 week thinking, I think we had an alt line of Bryce Young to just throw 150, and even that he made hard work. So yeah. I don't think you can ever go into a week wanting to bet on the Panthers offense, quite honestly.
I do want to bring up Jawan Jennings. It's a really good point here. Someone mentioned Jawan Jennings, 22.5. Yeah. And looking over his longest reception, he seems to always go over that one. That's a pretty low total, 22.5. The 49ers. That's a pretty good look there. So, Chargers and Panthers, not much going on there in the receiving game. So Saints and Cowboys, again, not a lot of names. Rashid Shaheed. We talked about him going over his longest reception. I think he got it on the first series.
He did. He did indeed. I was sat there and I was like, there it is. We say it most weeks.
Rashid Shaheed over his longest, yeah. Other than that, you can't take hardly anything away from the Saints passing game last week. That before you knew it, they were up 30 on Carolina. Do you like any receiving props here?
I don't know what Kamara's reception line is. We rode it for quite a huge streak. I think it was last year or the year before.
Hit every week. Old check down car.
4.5. I could easily get behind that. He checks it down so often. Particularly, it's those hurry up drills at the end of each half. And there's some times where he's only had like one or two, and you're like, oh, is it going to get there? And they'll just go like ping, 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 and they'll have like 3 in a row. So, check down king.
He is, man. I mean, Derek Carr just loves him a good check down. So Kamara over receptions maybe. All right, Buccaneers and Lions. Here's a receiving bonanza here on this one. So, injuries galore with Tampa. We wanted to talk about this. Their secondary went from being healthy to just not healthy at all. So there's going to be a lot of passing yards available. Amon-Ra St. Brown was absolutely horrible last week, but you know that can't continue. That being said, 82.5 is so much. Jameson Williams' ankle might be a little bit banged up. I kind of like Sam Laporta at 49.5. I think he's going to be running wide open through the secondary. And if there's one guy you want to try and take away, I know you can't really totally take away Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I think this is a good passing game for Baker. I think I was really, really encouraged by how healthy and fast Chris Godwin looked. So I might look at his over 61.5. What do you like in this one?
Rashid White. I mean, 26.5. Like, he went 6 for 75 last week with a longer 32. Now, I know it was against the Commanders, and the Commanders are very, very bad. But we know the Lions have a good rush defense, so I'm expecting Tampa to go more through the air. They're going to want to get White involved. I think this is such a low total. I mentioned it last week. You can almost every week get White with either his rushing or receiving. You tailor it to the defense, and he normally has a big game in one of them. So you just carry on 26.5. I'm going to play this with my own money. So I love it. So
like it. We will get to Kyle Juszczyk in our best bet segment. Don't worry, we have not forgot about Kyle Juszczyk. We will talk about him. Jets and the Titans. Man, am I just the negative guy? I think no NFL player is going to do well, but give me this DeAndre Hopkins under 31.5 all day long.
Yeah.
All day. He's playing on an MCL that even he has said is not going to be healthy for the entire year. He's literally just being like, I'm going to play hurt. You got Will Levis attempting to throw him the ball. And then on top of that, Jim, you want to talk a little bit about the Jets defense? You know their defense in and out. I feel like this is a pretty easy Titans team to guard through the air.
Yeah, they have no threats in the passing game. And Sauce Gardner this year is traveling. He's not staying on one side. So you would think that they're going to put him on Hopkins most of the game. Maybe Ridley. I don't know how that would play out, who you'd say is more of a threat. But Hopkins is not healthy. It's that simple. And the Jets have 3 capable cornerbacks where their weak is safety. They're not weak at cornerback. So I just don't know. Again, no faith in this Titans team whatsoever to put a competent football game together from start to finish.
Yeah, I just think this Titans team is a little bit easy to defend. Now, I mean, if anything, maybe it's rushing with Titans. Maybe Pollard does some work, but I just think this DeAndre Hopkins fate is going to be good all year long. I mean, think about 31.5. It's only week 2, and the books already know the books already are on top of it. Like, you know, I mean, what was Hopkins last year? He 60, 70. This line's in half. So, Browns and Jaguars.
I'm actually back to the Jets real quick before you move on. The Allen Lazard, Aaron Rodgers connection. We kind of knew. Everybody forgot that Aaron likes his guys, and Allen's kind of the last one, and they kind of wanted to force him the ball a little bit. It seemed like that first game. Most certainly in the red zone, I think they're going to try to get him the ball. So, you know, if they're going to decide to double Garrett Wilson, it sure looks to me like Lazard is the clear-cut number 2 at this point. Who is it? Mike Williams, who's also hurt? You know, they were smart enough not to give us a Mike Williams line.
You didn't have to say Mike Williams is hurt. You just have to say Mike Williams. We know that includes that Mike Williams is banged up.
Can I quickly go back? I completely forgot. I have a play that I love that I haven't mentioned in the Vikings 49ers. I think we've already gone past it, but it's kind of under the radar. Ty Chandler over 1.5 receptions. So I think he's gonna. I think they're gonna have to pass quite a lot. The Vikings. He had 3 receptions last week in a comfortable win versus the Giants, where they didn't really need to throw the ball at all. He got 25 yards. It's just such a low total. That's 2 catches on a team that I'm expecting to be throwing most of the game. Aaron Jones can't be in there. He does not have the stamina to be in there the whole game, let alone the leg.
Yeah.
Like, he'll give himself an injury. So yeah, Donald likes to check it down as well. I could easily see him getting two catches. So,
Jim, what do you think about Browns and Jaguars?
Jaguars. I don't think they're going to have to do much. That's the problem. I really don't know who's going to be getting the ball for the Jaguars. I am not taking any props on the Cleveland Browns passing attack. I do not think, even at these low numbers, we are going to see anything special. The Gabe Davis 36.5 is kind of interesting. Evan Ingram really had a stinker of a game last week.
You're telling me about it.
Yeah, it wasn't expected at all. So I don't know if they're going to force to try to get him back in. You know, Gabe Davis is the shiny new toy, and we have seen him be able to break that long reception to get over this number and possibly one One play. Other than that, really not a whole lot. I'm more interested in fading the offensive line of the Browns.
I get you. Seahawks and Patriots. I really don't have any takes on this game. Corbin, you like any receiving props?
Pass. I do have one in the next game if you want me to just roll.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wandale Robinson over 39.5. Now, I like Neighbors for the reason that you actually touched on it earlier during the injury report anyway. But I think Robinson really goes under the radar. He had 12 targets last week, 6 receptions for 44 yards. And now he plays the Commanders, who have the worst defense.
I think they're the worst secondary. I think we can say that.
Yeah.
Do you think we can say that?
We're going to find out after this game. This is the 2 worst ones.
Corbin, I watched every minute of that game because we had a really good sizable play on that one. Yeah. And I was stunned at how bad the Washington secondary was. I mean, they had a guy that was tackling wide receivers in the secondary because he was getting burned so bad. Like Baker had a big game and it could have been bigger. I mean, that guy was grabbing Mike Evans' jersey and face mask and anything he could. So I'm with you on Wandale Robinson. Keep going.
Yeah, I think he sails over. I do like Neighbors to also go over for exactly the same reasons. But if I had to pick like 66
and a half.
And obviously we have to remember that he did appear on the injury report you mentioned at the start. Again, if I had to pick between the two, I'd rather pick the one that doesn't have any kind of injury concerns at a lower total and still getting 12 targets. So
did a free play video on Devin Singletary over 14 or it was over 11 and a half last week and he had 15 yards. I don't know. It's just it's tough to take 3 Giants overs in the receiving game. So you almost have to just kind of pick one and roll with it. Rams and Cardinals. Corbin, I know you got some plays in this one we'll talk about here in a bit. Jim, do you like any of these receiving?
No. There's only one person to talk about. We'll let Corbin talk about him.
Okay. Bengals and the Chiefs. Yeah, I thought Rashee Rice was so undervalued coming into the season, and then he looked amazing. I would go right back to him at 67.5. I would also look at his receptions. I mean, he's the number 1 wide receiver for Patrick freaking Mahomes. Like it's kind of crazy, to think about. You get Rashee Rice, at 67.5, and then you get guys like CeeDee Lamb and stuff. It's like 89.5. It's like, really? I don't know. I just feel like Rashee Rice is kind of undervalued. I will absolutely keep taking that one.
The question I have for this game is: does Juju get a target? These low numbers, does he get a target? Are they going to have
got one
to
last
get
week,
him a
didn't
target?
he?
I think he got 1, right? 1. So is this going to be one of those props throughout the season where they're going to hang Juju at 7-8 yards?
Yeah.
And he's going to be on the stat sheet with 1 target and 0 catches.
I would like to say we maybe overreacted to Xavier Worthy, but man, I don't want an under on that guy. He's just so fast. Like he just ran away from other guys. So Steelers and Broncos. Woohoo. Here we go. I will say this. I do kind of like Cortland Sutton at 40 yards. Maybe his receptions. Corbin would surprise you. Sutton got 12 targets last week.
I did not
He got 12 targets.
New contract, new man.
Yeah, Bo Nix was looking his way. Yes, over 3.5. Yeah, yes, that's my only play in this game. I love that one. Absolutely love that one. I know the Steelers are a great defense, but it was pretty obvious that the Broncos were just like, all right, Bo Nix, you're just going to get a lot of reps. We're just going to let you throw. So, yeah, I'll take Cortland Sutton over on that one.
Whilst you're on the receptions, I really love Pickens over his 3.5 receptions. I feel like that was one of my – I said earlier in the week to you, Andy, I feel like that's one of my takeaways from the week is just how much work Pickens got. So he had 6 receptions last week for 85 with a longest of 40 versus the Falcons. I am slightly worried that they're going to run a bit more here. We touched on it earlier, but he seems to have such a good rapport with Fields. He's the clear wide receiver 1. 3.5 does not feel very high in the slightest. So I've already played this one. So
we spoke about Pickens last week, and the thing with Justin Fields is whoever his number one guy is, that's who he looks to. And that's all he looks to.
the Jaden Daniels syndrome.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bears and Texans, I don't want anything to do with receiving props. It's tough to pick who the Texans wide receiver is going to be, and the Bears, no thanks. I mean, if you like Caleb Williams under, DJ Moore under 66.5 is probably worth a look. Any wide receiver props in this one you guys like?
I'm going. Sorry, Jim. I'm going with Diggs over his 4.5 receptions. He had 6 last week. He just demands the ball. I don't care what the situation is. He is going to throw a hissy fit if he doesn't go over. If he doesn't get 5 receptions, he's going to start having a meltdown. He's the big new shiny signing. They're going to want to keep him happy for as long as possible. And 4.5 receptions doesn't seem like a lot. I know they've got all these other weapons, but again, he's the new toy. He's the one they're going to want to keep happy. So
yeah, all right. Corbin,
Swift at 14.5. I wonder if they go back and they look at this film with Caleb and say, "Listen, Caleb, don't run 20 yards backwards. This isn't college. Check it down." So that 14.5 on Swift, I would think he would be our receiving back in this scheme. That's kind of what I expected week 1, and we just didn't see it because of the ineptitude of the offense. But 14.5 seems pretty low for a player like Swift.
All right, Corbin, you ready for your
not to score a touchdown? Come on,
where's it at?
It's in touchdowns. Touchdown scorers right at the end again.
All right, so Corbin loves this. Picking players not to score touchdowns. This is new for this year on DraftKings. Who do you like to not score a touchdown this week?
I'm going back to Kittle again. I haven't looked through the full list, but I feel like I just want to play Kittle every week. I know
I'm just gonna every week click on Alexander Madison, and then we'll go from there.
Are we sitting on 159 right there?
Yeah,
that's not bad.
It's not bad, right, Corbin?
I love it. Yeah, I need a way to fade Kittle. I just don't think he's worth what everyone's thinking he is. So
yeah, okay, all right. Surely there's some other players that we can put in there. So all right, yeah, minus 159. That's good enough. Yes. Alrighty here. Let's get to some actionable info here. Corbin, I'll let you do alternate universe first here. Just walk us through. These are alt lines that you can parlay together. Who you like?
Yeah, so I always say this. If you like 2 of the 3 or maybe just 1, you can take these and obviously use them with other parts. You can use them with totals on player props, team totals, spreads. You don't have to keep them all together as I do. So first one is Ravens -1. Ravens at home, coming off a loss. I think they're going to bounce back quite emphatically here. The Raiders look so poor against the Chargers on both sides of the ball. I don't see them making enough improvements to get even close to the Ravens here. Ravens still look promising versus the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson had his normal running back days. Off a loss, I think they bounce back here. The time of possession, I think, is going to be huge for them as well. They're going to hold the ball running it for so long. I think they're going to tire out the Raiders' defense. 49ers +7. I mean, they look so good even without Christian McCaffrey. They just don't turn over the ball. They have such a strong defense. The Vikings aren't great except Justin Jefferson, who they'll probably double or triple, quite honestly. Just take him away. And even if they lose, I can't see it by more than a touchdown. So, yeah. And then we have the Jets over 13.5 points. The Titans defense is still not good. And I will continue to say it. They gave up 24 points to the Bears with Caleb Williams after we just talked about how bad of a day he still had. The Jets still got to 19 against the 49ers. I think this is perfect for Aaron Rodgers to find his feet in this team. He's going to throw all over the Titans. This is 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns against this Titans team with the likes of Hall, Wilson, Lazard finding his feet again. I really love this play altogether for -145. So,
for those of you that are going to say, well, one of the touchdowns was a pick 6. Yeah, Will Levis does that. Part of the handicap. So let's do inside the trenches. Jim, you're the expert. looking at sack props, and it's really, really important that we take a look at some of these offense and defensive lines. We don't talk about it enough, and I mean that the trenches is just where the battle's won. So let's talk about what's going on with the Rams and the Browns this week.
Well, we'll start with the Browns. Yeah, we see a lot of Browns chatter in the chat and everything. So, look, Jedrick Willis is out. They were already down last week. I think they have 3 starters that are out. Now, all of this is compounded by the poor play of Lamar Jackson. You can make up for Deshaun. Lamar's good. Deshaun's not.
Breaking.
He would manage that with that offensive line. He's holding on to the ball. His mobility is not there. They are just going to be a train wreck. Without Nick Chubb, this team just looks like its identity is lost. They don't know what they are. They don't know who they are on offense. The defense is still good, but they're not going to have any kind of longevity. You know, talking about both sides of the ball also, we're already seeing Myles Garrett start to show up on the injury report. So not a good recipe for the Browns. Injuries on the offensive line, injuries on the defensive line for a team that hangs its hat on being physical. They have to be a fade going forward if they don't start getting healthy soon. So I think that Deshaun is in deep trouble this season. Deep trouble. I do not think he is going to make the season.
Love it for our, that was one of our most confident futures was under 3,300 passing yards. What's going on with the Rams?
So the Rams are down their whole left side of their offensive line, their left guard and their left tackle, which are already backups. They're also hurt. So now we have an extreme weakness on the left-hand side of the line. That being said, they did run the ball pretty good with those guys out, but that was mid-game. You know, you already game plan installed. You know, you're going to run hard. Kyren Williams looks like he is going to be the guy.
Sure. All right. Looks like we lost Jim. He froze up. You there, Jim?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay.
You got me?
Keep going.
So the problem with this is Matthew Stafford's mobility. He's getting up there. And we've seen him take these shots and take these hits over and over and over again. And I wonder if this can affect him. One thing that cannot be stated enough is the fact that losing Puka Nacua gives them no depth. We know where the ball is going in this offense. No Tyler Higbee. I mean, who's left? It's Kyren Williams and Cooper Kupp at this point.
Yeah.
So, I think that Stafford is going to have some rough days ahead if they can't get some stability on the left-hand side of this line. Maybe look at Kyren Williams overs. If they can still have some success running the ball, they might try to be run heavy.
All righty. All right, good stuff there. Keep your eye on those offensive and defensive lines. All right, Corbin, same game parlay. You love you some Cooper Kupp, and I love me some James Conner. So this is right up our alley. Love it.
Yeah, so I mentioned Kupp last week, and boy, oh boy, did that work out well for me last week. So what do we have? We have him 6+ receptions and 60 yards. So he had 21 targets last week for 14 receptions, 110 yards. I'm expecting a shootout, high-scoring game with the Cardinals, who have an offense and no defense. No Nacua. Kupp gets fed so many of these short passes in the slot. They move him all along the line to get him involved. So I have no problem with him getting involved. 6 receptions for him with the injuries seems quite easy to me. James Conner, 25+ rushing. I'm so bummed. This is the one play that hurt me last week. Was I needed him to go over 50.5, and he got exactly 50. Always losing by the 0.5 is excruciating. But he's so consistent at the 25 yards that I could easily throw him. That was an easy piece. He still had a decent showing. They need a decent rush here, I think, to offset their pass. It kind of works in tandem. You have to have a good rush from Conner to set up everything else. 25 is such a low, easy total. I think he could get there. Quite honestly, he could break one run for 20 yards like he did last week, and then you suddenly only need 5 yards. So, and then Rams plus 14.5. As I mentioned, the Cardinals have really no defense that I saw. They have a good offense, but 14.5 is a ton of points against this Rams team. So wrap that all together up for minus 146.
All
righty. Jim, you want to check in with the sack department here? Let's talk about a couple of these sacks.
Yeah, we're going to go. There's only 2 of them really that I'm interested in this week. And We're going to go back to Boye Mafe with Seattle. I thought that Seattle defense looked the way I expected it to look, improved. Running this different scheme, I watched a good amount of that game, and they had this guy all over the place, rushing him from the outside as a down lineman. It's very, very obvious that he is going to be the focal point of their pass rush in Seattle. There really is nobody else. So everyone else is playing decoy, and they're moving him around. At plus 100 still at a half a sack, I think that line is a little soft. 115 on that one. So I like the number. Chris Jones. Let's talk about what Spagnuolo did with Chris Jones last week. They tried it out. Said to Chris Jones, pick where you want to rush.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? Literally rearrange the entire defensive line to wherever he wanted to be. He got to pick and choose where he could rush. So Chris Jones, if that's the way they're going to play this, he's going to get the best matchup every play. So I know it's a full sack. I don't care. This guy's a premier pass rusher, and if they're going to let him just...
Jim's internet is sick as well, Corbin.
Did any of that come out or no? Did any of that?
Chris Jones, Spagnuolo moved him all over the field. He got to pick who he rushed to get. And so he picked the worst guy on the other team to line up. All right.
It makes sense.
It makes all the sense in the world. All right, let's get to our best bet, guys. If you haven't, hit the like button and subscribe. Let's get some actionable info. All of our plays are at wagertalk.com. Our week 2 pack is up. That includes all plays that we'll have for today and for tomorrow. I will start. Best bet, going Jerome Ford over 20.5 receiving. I don't think he's that great of a runner. I think the game script's going to be away from them again. And this is a guy that had 7 targets last week. He caught 6 of those passes for 25 yards. Jerome Ford is just much better as a receiver than he is as a runner. And, against Dallas last week, Deshaun threw the ball 45 times. Jerome Ford rushed 12 times, averaged 3.7 yards per carry. This is just not a good rushing team. It's going to be dump off heaven, I think, for Cleveland today. So I'll take Jerome Ford over 20.5 receiving. Jim, listen, he cashed your guy cashed easily last week. Going right back to him, right?
I was terrified because he had 1 reception for 6 yards. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Because the thing with him is you don't know if he's going to get 2 targets. But he did. And again, with this McCaffrey being out, I think they have to spread the ball out a little bit more. To Corbin talking about Kittle, just being non-existent at times and not to score touchdowns. I think we're going to see an uptick in Juszczyk's production. So if they're going to keep this at a manageable number where we can get it in 1 reception, I'll play it every week.
All right, Corbin, you're going with there's a little bit of a same game parlay here as your best bet. What do you like?
It's basically Garrett Wilson over his receptions, but it's a tad juiced. So just add in another piece to slightly bring it down. I love Garrett Wilson in this spot. So he had 6 receptions last week on 11 targets. And Aaron Rodgers mentioned that he needs to get him more involved. That tells me everything I need to know. If Rodgers needs to get him more involved, he will find a way to get him involved. The Titans defense is so poor. We've mentioned it before. Sorry to the one guy who loves his Titans defense, but I don't. This is an easier matchup, obviously, than the 49ers. Again, same with Kupp. They move him around, sometimes in the slot, sometimes out wide. They'll find a way to get him the ball. He's the key player. He has such a good relationship with Aaron Rodgers. I think he easily gets over this total. And then parlayed with Titans team total under 28.5. Do I really need to say too much? The Jets defense is probably the best, if not one of the best in the league. The Titans offense, again, poor, 29, huge total. They're not going over that. So,
love it. I think the Steelers right now. I don't know, Jim, what do you think? Steelers? Best defense? Jets? Jets secondary is also...
Steelers' health is always going to have to hinge on. It's about T.J. Watt. If they lose Watt, they're in trouble. They're in trouble.
That's true.
I still think it's the 49ers.
Okay.
The Jets are vulnerable in the run. And we've seen that for the past couple of years. So
we'll see about that today. But
all
right.
Yeah, they've got Pollard and Spears running at them. I'm sure they're quaking in their boots. How are we going to deal with them?
Statement game today.
All right, guys, there's your best bets. Again, if you could help us out, just leave a comment. Tell us what your best bet is for this week. If you don't have a hot take, just type the word tape. That's the word of the day, tape, in the comment section.
Oh,
really appreciate it.
Survivor picks as well, Andy. The people that are still in the Survivor have got to do their picks.
That's right. We forgot to do the Survivor. All right.
I'm already out. So.
I know. Oh, man. This is pretty easy for me. I'm going Texans. I think they take care of the Bears. Jim, what do you think?
I'll take the Ravens.
Going the Ravens? Okay. All right. Well, you and millions of other people, I'm not
I'll
even
be the
doing
Bengals guy this week.
I'm so happy I'm not doing a Survivor pool. I didn't pay any money to do a Survivor, and I'm so happy. I'm never doing another paid Survivor pool. If I play fantasy football and I lose at the end of the year, at least I can say that was still fun. Survivor, I don't have fun. No. There's no fun. I've never won one. It's a miserable experience. It's awful. So, all right, there's our Survivor picks. Great work, everyone. Appreciate it. Again, all plays over at wagertalk.com. Practice good bankroll management, guys. Make sure we don't have. If you're terrified about how much money you have down on games today, you've bet too much. So let's reel it back. Good luck on all your plays, guys. Thanks so much, and we'll see everyone later.
Good luck.